For Sunday, September 11th, you found the Georgia gang. Topping our agenda today, Governor Deal was surprised large pay raises. The governor also angry at certain school boards, and Donald Trump is gaining in the polls. Some of the stories up for grabs on the Georgia gang.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia gang starts now.
Good day on Sunday. We're glad you could be with us. We're joined today by Matt Towery, our resident polling and political analyst. We're glad to have you, Matt, and we hope your expertise will light up the room. But before we do that, I want to note that today is the 15th anniversary of the attacks in New York and the Pentagon on 9/11. The 15 years have flown by, and I'd just like to ask you quickly, how do you see the nation changed other than long lines and incompetence at our nation's airports?
Well, I'll start first, and I remember right after 9/11 there was a lot of unity. It didn't matter if you were a black, white, liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican. We were united. Our country had been attacked, and there was a lot of patriotism and wanting to try to fight this radical Islamic attack. I'm concerned now of the divisiveness in the country and in some quarters a lack of patriotism.
What do you think, Alexis?
I agree. There was a moment of unity there at the, the brunt of the attacks. But I think there's always been this divisiveness has been under the surface, and unfortunately, it has been exacerbated in recent years and in this current political campaign too.
Jeff, you've got kids that don't even remember 9/11, as do I, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a textbook experience for them. But I think that in the interim, we've had a lot of fear-based politicking going on, and that's a real problem. We need to get back to that patriotism that Phil makes reference to when we came together, and now we're using terrorism, particularly domestic terrorism, as some sort of political tool to divide. I think that that's a problem. The New York Times, I think, did a study recently that said that it's more likely that you will die by falling out from your furniture, I think it was, that your furniture will kill you than a terrorist.
Well, that's simplistic crap from New York Times. That's all that is crap. The fact is we have a terrorist threat. Matt, would you like to be more sober and restrained?
I think what I'll say is this. At that time, everyone stood for the national anthem and everyone saluted the flag, and now we have it as a demonstration in the reverse. So obviously there's a lot going on in this country.
Yeah, I think, and I'm going to sum that up and we'll get to the news of the day, but I think we are, I'm going to disagree with you, Phil, a little bit. I think we are still united as a nation vis-a-vis terrorism. I really do think we are. I think this business of taking a knee or sitting down, again, those are aberrations. Take them out and shoot them would be my answer, but we can't do that. So, all right, let's turn to, we get paid to analyze state and local affairs.
Take out the terrorists and shoot them? Huh? I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you were saying there.
Take them out and shoot them. It's an old phrase from newspapers.
Okay.
If you don't like them, take them out and shoot them.
Okay.
Right? When I see a guy kneeling down during the national anthem,
some things
the
are better
phrase
left
occurs.
in the past.
I don't mean it literally. Just take them out and shoot them. It's not
good.
literal.
Good.
All right. So let's turn to the local news. Governor Deal actually astounded me this week with a 20% pay raise for state law enforcement agencies. Primary one it's aimed at is the Georgia State Patrol. And Phil, I mean, who gets a 20% pay raise on top of a 6% pay raise?
It is a big raise, but it's long overdue. They got a little raise from the last session, and I think they've been really neglected. I think that's the best word to use over the last 6-7 years. We did have some cutbacks, as we all know, in state government. A lot of folks went without raises. And I think we all should agree that it's got some good training components in here, too, especially with mental health issues.
For all law enforcement.
For all law enforcement. So the governor had a two-pronged approach, and I think he's getting some welcomed bipartisan approval.
Matt, when you served in the General Assembly, you knew how budgets went.
Yes.
This governor has been a prudent steward of the state's money through tough times. We saw that he's got a $2 billion surplus now.
That's right.
Good stuff.
Yes.
And now he's spending the money the way he wants to, and he's got the legislature behind him, apparently.
He does, and what I have to say about Governor Deal is that he has taken advantage of the low interest rate time period that we've enjoyed. He's built our budget to the point to where we're going to continue to have that tremendous rating that few states enjoy, and he's taking some of that money and spending it where it really needs to go. And one of the places it needs to go is to law enforcement in this state. They were asked to stand back for quite some time during the lean times, and certainly if there's any group that I would have supported when I was in the legislature, it would have been them. So I think he's taking the right move.
Now, I think it's good for them, but I also think he needs to take a look at teachers, too.
Well, I think their time is coming. You know, Jeff, the governor noted that these pay raises will take our state troopers from 50th in the nation in pay to number 24 in the nation, and I believe third highest paid in the South. That's all pretty good. Teachers have got that big jump, especially under Governor Zell Miller back when. But I think you're right, Alexis. The governor does plan to make this next session an education session.
Right.
So, segueing to that,
you had 8 local law enforcement agencies that were paying more than state troopers were earning. An entering state trooper was earning about $38,000 a year.
and they were losing state troopers.
And they're losing them to local police departments, right? And so I think that he wanted to stop that hemorrhage of qualified, trained officers. It does cost money for the state to train police officers, and to get them to a livable wage. You know, we keep talking about a livable wage. You make reference to the 1.1% anemic growth. How do you go out and treat your family to dinner or a movie if you're making $38,000 a year? And that's what the officers were earning before this 20% increase.
Well, they were being paid the same as beginning school teachers. Now, on the schools, the governor also has begun to push for his constitutional amendment on opportunity school districts. And it wasn't like him. He got a little angry this week when he spoke to an education group. He was mad at these school boards who are condemning the vote in advance in November. Anybody got a thought on that?
Well, the school boards don't want to lose the control over their schools, and they're politicians too. They get elected, so they're, you know, pitching to their constituents and saying they're defending.
But you know, some of the school boards, like Cherokee, who condemn this, they're basically Republican. They don't have any schools that are failing. Why do they get into that fight?
Well, I think Alexis is right, though. It's still
Local
local control, and I've always favored local control, except I don't want to see students in failing schools locked in under so-called local control. I'll give you 2 examples, just 2 names, Clayton County, DeKalb County.
Yeah, you're
I mean,
right.
we've got to help students get out of failing schools, and the governor is to be commended in the legislature for putting this on the ballot, and I'm going to vote yes.
I thought he made sense when he talked about 68,000 students trapped in 127 failing schools. That's big numbers for a state. So he's got to do something.
I'm
I
just
think
not so sure that a state takeover is the answer. I mean, there's no indication that the state of Georgia has the history of investing in education to the extent that it should. In fact, it's the exact opposite.
Jeff, I wouldn't call it a takeover. I would call it an intervention, because it's not a massive takeover. And it may not work. I mean, listen, I've been around in politics for way too many decades until I got out. We always talked about improving education, and we still have terrible test scores in this state, and a lot of it is demographically mired in poverty and traditions. We talked about this on this show before.
Absolutely.
But an intervention, listen, it can't hurt, because nothing else has helped.
Especially charter schools are one of the tools of this intervention, and everyone likes charter schools according to the polls, and it's parental choice. I know the union bosses in this state don't like it, and they're the ones that want a no vote.
But the problem with charter schools is, well, long-standing with me, is the fact that it's based on socioeconomics primarily, and the people who have
I'm not sure that's true anymore, but we'll save that debate. We've got to get out. I would say we need more reading and less rapping. That would be the way I would address the school problem. Staying on Governor Deal for just a second, good news for him, we don't have to comment on it. Huge tire company moving its operations to LaGrange. The Kia corridor continues to grow. That's 1,000 jobs. So the governor had a good week.
There's going to be another big deal announcement tomorrow that's scheduled, too.
Monday, okay, well, good for the governor. All right, when we come back, some discord among the people who police our state's judges, and an interesting story about Kasim Reed. Quiet, Kasim, just for once. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
one more state story that kind of affects us all, and that's this upcoming ballot issue in November, which would change the complete composition of the Judicial Qualifications Commission. And to start moving that along, House Chairman Wendell Willard had hearings this week, and Phil, you went there, and it seems to be, this to me looks like Democrats versus Republicans. But is it more than that?
It's partly that, but it's a lot more than that. And your reference to Chairman Willard and his special study committee, they're going to be holding hearings through now until Election Day. The first hearing had some fireworks, and there are 2 points that you could take away from that. And one of them was that Chairman Willard made the point that the JQC, it's the watchdog agency that looks over all the judges and any inappropriateness. The JQC currently constituted is the investigator, and then the judge and the jury. And the point is that we have to change that, and that was the point of this legislation that's going to be on the ballot. But secondly, and we all have journalism backgrounds here, the news that came out is that the JQC is fighting this House committee. They refuse to turn over all of their files to the public. So this is where some of this comes in. There's some of the politics come in. And Lester Tate, the former JQC chairman that resigned, a lawyer, former state bar president, he's not coming out too good at all. We'll watch. We can report on the gang as these hearings go on.
Well, staying in the courtroom for just a minute, I'm jumping around out of order here. You'll recall that when Miguel Southwell was fired by Kasim Reed as director of the Atlanta Hartsfield International, Hartsfield Jackson International, there were some sharp words exchanged between Kasim Reed, the mayor, and Miguel Southwell. All of a sudden now, all is sweetness and light, and apparently, Jeff, an out-of-court settlement required that each man praise the other.
Well, I don't think that it was required. I think that it was agreed to, that they just drop any hostilities and certainly any claims of litigation going forward, and that's what they have done. And I think that that's probably a good thing for all the parties involved. I mean, nobody wants to see this thing get mired in those kinds of politics. The mayor had every right and prerogative to make a choice, a change at the airport, as mayors have done in the past, and he did so in this instance.
I'm not clear. Is there a financial settlement involved?
I don't think that there's any money involved at all. This is both parties walking away saying we rescind any former allegations of any sort on both sides.
Jeff, there was an interesting piece of all places, creative loafing. And in the last paragraph of their article on this Southwell Reed story, they're referring to an affidavit. And I'd love to see an open records request, because we all know Atlanta politics here. There has to be some money paid to the law firms. And I think Miguel Southwell, if he doesn't get some sort of monetary settlement, he got screwed over, because the mayor made some very serious charges, accused Southwell of crimes. So the mayor, thankfully, has backed off and has stopped that. But that was a very serious allegation.
Knowing the Kasim Reed we've all come to like and respect, I think, because he's been a pretty good mayor. For him having to sign a statement like this where he can't say what he really thinks, and when he can't repeat what he said before.
It's a killer.
You talk about signing a piece of paper with clenched teeth, clenched jaws. That would be Kasim Reed in this. Staying at the airport for just a moment. Good news, I think, we just talked about this on the broadcast, about the lack of competition among airlines and Delta's monopoly essentially at Hartsfield Jackson. Well, here comes JetBlue coming back next year, going to make another try of it. I'm for it.
Good.
Yeah, we need options.
Maybe they'll get 2 gates.
And
Maybe they'll need 2 gates, right?
that's what they want, is 2 gates. You're right. Doesn't seem like it'll make a big difference, does it?
No.
Oh, they have wider seats, Jeff.
Okay.
So, you may only get to go to 2 gates and wait a while.
Right.
But, all right. And then finally, Atlanta, the city of big dreamers. Last week or so, we talked about the stitch over the downtown connector to connect downtown and midtown. Now we have a cap over Georgia 400 at Lenox Road, going up to the financial center. Are we dreaming, or are these could this happen?
It can happen. And let me just give a shout out to the Buckhead Community Improvement District.
Right.
These CIDs are doing great all over the state. You know, they started here
They
with
are
the Cumberland
doing really well.
CID.
Absolutely.
And this is their plan, and more power to them. The plans look great that we read.
It sounds like
Yeah.
it could be a good thing because there's, as they pointed out, there's no particular park space in that part of town.
It's in the Buckhead section,
Right.
so it'll connect.
Yeah,
but
and
you're
so
right.
the stitch would provide building space for office buildings and residences and so forth.
In Midtown.
In Midtown. The
Yeah.
cap would provide park space.
Right.
So,
Open space, yeah.
well, a tip of the cap. How about that? All right. That's it for this segment. I was going to talk about the closing of ITT technical institutes, throwing thousands of students and faculty to the wayside. But I want to develop that further some other time because it involves Bill Clinton. That'll be my teaser for next week. All right, when we come back, we're going to make Matt Towery talk a lot. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
It's my sense that Donald Trump had a very good week, that he seems to be gaining nationally, he even seems to be gaining in some of the must-win states like Ohio, Florida, and so forth. But that's my sense. Matt Towery, our Fox 5 political analyst. Am I right, wrong, indifferent?
No, you're right. I mean, in virtually every case, the polls are closing a bit, Dick, and we're beginning to see a tightening in some of the key battleground states. Ohio amazes me. Trump's doing very well in Ohio. He's got it pretty much even in Florida based on our Fox 13 poll we've conducted down there. And Pennsylvania is still out of reach right now. He's got to get Pennsylvania in order to line this thing up to actually win. A lot will be determined by the debates, but the one other thing I want to note is that all the polls could be off this year, and for this reason, we weight our polls based on the turnout levels of some model before. Most are using 2012. Now, if there's a tick down in young people turning out, or a tick down at all in African American voters or Hispanics, which I don't think there'll be a tick down there, I think there'll be a tick up, it could actually change the numbers in favor of Trump. On the other hand, if you were to see young people more enthused or the African American turnout stay where it was in 2012, then Trump's got a very tough road.
You've also got the landline problem, don't you? I'm no polling
Right.
expert, but
Yeah, we've pretty much overtaken that problem because while we still use landlines primarily to reach those of us who are older, we're able to use online now and blend the two together. At least that's what we do for all the Fox affiliates that Opinion Savvy works with and that I analyze for those stations. And it's been very accurate. Rated number 3 by Bloomberg this year. So
But
I know.
online, but that doesn't include cell phones, does it?
no, what it does to give an exact answer is it goes to smartphones, and instead a young person will not take a long cell phone
Right.
questionnaire. So I always wonder when I see these networks with 60 questions and they say they included cell phones, who are they talking to? Because
Right.
I can't get anybody under 30 to talk on a cell phone for more than 30 seconds.
unless their parents are paying for the minutes.
But they will answer if it's an online questionnaire, and that's the way we go about doing it.
All right, now in Georgia, let's focus on that for a minute. The Clinton campaign continues to insist that Georgia is in play and has moved staff and whatnot in here. I noticed the campaign manager for the Clinton national campaign is giving interviews, gave an interview to a station that they bought all their ad time on. I noticed that. I wouldn't call that anything other than a coincidence, wink, wink. But is that buy real, or is it just to fake the Trump people out, Matt?
Look, I have been known for many years as saying that Georgia could become purple. In my judgment, Georgia has yet to become purple. What happens is you have sort of an anomaly that occurs up until the last week of the campaign. We saw it in Jason Carter, we saw it in Obama back in 2012 and 2008 especially, and it looks like the state goes Democrat, and then suddenly you have this mushroom effect of Republican voters who turn out, and the thing really isn't as close as it appears. That having been said, I think it could be closer this year than we've seen in many years because there is a shifting demographic in Georgia, and if the Democrats get that vote out, then, and the one other thing I might add.
But that's the big if.
Well, here's the other big if. Here's the other big if. I've said consistently the Trump organization has one ad they need to run. I've met Hillary Clinton and I've met Donald Trump privately. She is much friendlier and nicer in person, and he is much quieter and much more solicitous and calmer. The Trump people need to show him behind the scenes so that people know he's not a raving maniac. Then they would get those moderate Republicans who are still holding back and those independents who say, I'm just not quite sure.
For my money, I don't think the African American vote is going to come close to what it was in 08 and 12. That's just my money thinking that. Now, it's interesting that the Hillary commercial that is running in Georgia, Phil, you think about it. They're using Max Cleland. Does anyone even remember who he was?
No, and it goes to your point, Matt, about young people, and you need to reintroduce, both candidates. And we talked the other day about the libertarian vote, which was high in your last poll, and that's going to go down. And I think that and African American turnout are the two things to watch.
Well, I also think that the African American turnout will get a boost once President Obama gets on the campaign trail, because he's going to not let his presidency go down like that.
Well, that to your point, that's very important, and that's going to be an important part of it. Also, don't discount the value, not saying it's political, but the effect that Black Lives Matter and the other issues we have going on right now have in being a political tool and churning up discord and churning up concern and trying to get people out to vote. I'm not saying the two are linked together, but they are coincidentally coming together at the same time, and that could affect that turnout as well.
Right, and I also think that Hillary, by using Max Cleland, is trying to appeal to some of the military vote that Georgia has a lot of, and some of the more moderate and so-called independent white voters.
A couple of observations from here. The Libertarian candidate hurt himself rather badly this week by not knowing what Aleppo was,
I thought
where
that
it was.
I'll tell you, I've had that conversation. I think that it was a trick question. I mean, Aleppo is not Paris or Barcelona or Madrid, and it's been in the news. He is, but ordinarily the question is couched in terms of what do you think about what's going on in Syria with ISIS instead of.
Dick, you can expect that same sort of tactic against Donald Trump in the debates.
Of course, I've been waiting for it.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's going to trip him up.
And because I want the last word, I'm going to take it. We've got to get out of this segment. Sleeper issue for the campaign that could benefit Donald Trump big time is multi-gazillionaire athletes refusing to honor America's flag. I've seen reports that some whole teams are planning to do that. That will set in place a backlash against Obama and Clinton like you've never seen.
Well, the NFL are a bunch of weak-kneed weasels.
Well, they're going to let them do it.
They need to have a policy that this
Well,
cannot stand.
there is this thing in this country called a freedom of speech
Yeah, but that
and
doesn't
freedom
mean
of expression, and that means that you can sit if you feel like sitting. And that's exactly what Kaepernick and others are doing. They have every right
Well,
to
you
do
just
so.
like the divisiveness. You like to
I
foster
don't like the
this.
divisiveness
We
at
gotta
all.
get out. We
I
gotta get
like
out.
people being able to do what they want to do under the First Amendment of this nation.
They can do it if they're not wearing a uniform for a team.
Well, how about Donald Trump has been trashing the United States of America for the last 15 months?
I must have missed that.
You missed it.
All right,
Please, because you weren't listening.
We got to get out.
That's
We got to
crazy.
get out. We got to get out. All right, when we come back, as if we haven't done it already, winners and losers.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
I guess I had my say, so I'll turn to my friend Jeffrey. What do you have?
Dax Lopez is getting another beating. He was one of many who were considered for the open Supreme Court positions, and there's been this outpouring from conservatives canning him.
Right.
Is it led by you, really, Phil?
No,
I'm sorry to
not
hear
led
that.
by, but-
I mean, here's a conservative judge, a member of the Federalist Society, and because he is Hispanic, he's facing these kinds of allegations and charges, and I just think it's unconscionable. Other loser, only because the New York Times made him one, Matt Lauer in the forum. I mean, they just skewered this guy. I don't know if it was as bad as it
No, he
seemed.
did an adequate job. He did fine.
I thought so too, but not according to the Times.
All right, Matt, what do you have?
Well, my winner was exactly what you already mentioned. That's Nathan Deal, because, as you said, having been in the legislature in the past, that you really value when you can get the state in such strong economic footing. He's got us there, and also kudos to his chief of staff. I don't know the chief of staff very well, but I know that he runs the state along with the governor, so nothing goes through there without him saying yay or nay, so they've done it together.
We'll make Chris Riley then the winner.
Exactly. And then I do finally have a loser. My loser is Publix. And it's not because I don't love Publix, but why did you get rid of the chocolate glazed donut coffee? Well, you can't buy any anymore. They don't have any of the brands anymore. I'm going to have to go Krogering. Depressing.
All right. Ooh,
Goodness,
Kroger.
ouch.
Not
All right,
me.
I'm going to salute Atlanta Technical College. They have put out an announcement for all of the folks who are at ITT to come to see them. They're going to have open house and waive the application fee and help them out to find another place.
All right. Phil?
Well, since I was named by Jeff, I'll make Dax Lopez the loser, the DeKalb judge, because he hurt himself. He was for open borders. He said so, and Senator David Perdue has always been my winner because he's the one that quashed initially his judgeship. But I also want to add Kasim Reed. He lost on that one, even though it was a Mexican standoff, I guess you could say, with regard
Oh, you can't
to
say
the-
that.
Say that.
I
You
just
can't
said
say
it.
that. No.
It fits perfectly
I
with the
said
Dax
it.
Lopez.
But,
You can't stand.
I just said it
It's on the record.
because the court case had a good thing that it shut Kasim Reed up, and that was the good. And yes, Nathan Deal, my winner.
I don't want to make Sandy Springs, your city, the winner, because they've cracked down on utilities digging up yards. This fiber war going on, destroying streets, lawns, and Sandy Springs City Council cracked down, and I'm glad to see it. And also, of course, this is the news you want to hear. Falcons today against the Bucks. First regular season game, Fox 5, 1 o'clock. See you next week on the Georgia Gang.
There you go.
The opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the panelists appearing in this program.